Hello and welcome back to the channel once again. My name is Andy and today we're back with another episode of Andy Races, and of course it is Le Mans weekend. It is the 24-hour of Le Mans today. In fact, so I'm recording this Saturday afternoon. I'm actually got the laptop to the side of me watching the build up. As it happens, the race is due to start in under an hour's time as I'm recording this, so going to go through this pretty quickly. But what I'm doing today, I'm going to talk about Le Mans as I go along, but I'm basically going to be doing a 25 minute, because I can't do 24 minutes, off Le Mans with the time progression set at about 50, so we get a full day to night and back to day cycle like it would be in the actual race. So we're going to go in straight to the point and get into the race itself, and I will talk about Le Mans as we go along. So the lights have just gone out. The reason they've gone out so quick is that I wanted to start dead last, and even with putting qualifying in, it still just put me at the back of the LMP1 field. But we're flying past the GTEs as we're underway, having to get on the brakes there because I don't know which way to go with this Ferrari 488. I think I've touched it a little bit, I've caused them a spin, which it's oops, I didn't really want to do. But I'd pulled to the side to let everyone by so I could start dead last and sort of weave my way through this traffic. So here we go, we're past the GTEs already, we're up to the LMP2s as we come down the hill through under the Dunlop Bridge, and we're heading up to Tetra Rouge for the first time, flying by a couple of the LMP2s, being a bit cheeky on the inside for an endurance race, but I'll take it anyway. And then that hybrid power coming in, absolutely monstrous down the Mulsanne straight. Now, quick way to point out, I don't have the Spirit of Le Mans pack, so this is the 2014 TS040 version of the Toyota, so I have no control over when the hybrid gets deployed. Basically I come out of a corner and it shoots off like a rocket. But Toyota have had horrible luck at the 24 hours as I completely missed the first Mulsanne chicane. More so than in 2016, where one lap to go and the car pulled over to the side of the road and retired. There's been many an instance of Toyota going close back in the late 90s with the GT1, which was a phenomenal car in its own right. If I remember rightly, just bad luck all going that year. I think they had a puncture, was the killer below, with Ukio Katayama, I think it was, at the wheel, former Formula 1 driver. But back to the point though, obviously of the video, is to talk about Le Mans itself. First race was back in 1923, so although it's not had 100 races at this point, obviously, come 2023, in about 5 years time, it will have hit its 100th anniversary in terms of when the first race was ran. But of course, due to World War and stuff like that, obviously it's not going to be the 100th race, it's actually the 86th running of the race today, the 24-hour of Le Mans. It's organised by the ACO and is currently a part of the World Endurance Championship, the WEC, and it has been since 2012. Now, the original track was, well, it was monstrous. It was a lot bigger than what it is these days. I'm trying to find again on my notes where it is, the original length, but I can't find it at the moment. But I remember it being really long, so it was basically all public roads originally, and it was a sort of like a triangle from Le Mans down south to Mulsanne, northwest to Arnage, and back up north to Le Mans. And it was just absolutely monstrous. There we go, it was 10.7 miles long and was unpaved back at the beginning. And then obviously over the years they developed it, got a bit shorter due to safety restrictions and stuff like that. And obviously it's seen as being the prime example of endurance racing. It has obviously helped to cause a number of spin-offs, like so of the Daytona 24 hours, Nürburgring 24 hours, which we've done a couple of months ago, the Spa 24 hours, which is currently part of the Blancpain series of endurance, which is coming to Assetto Corsa Competizione, so that'll be interesting. And the Bathurst 24 hours as well, and a whole load of 12-hour spin-offs as well. Sebring, Road Atlanta, Bathurst has a 12 hours as well. All sorts of other events have came through this, and the reason the organisers went for an endurance race was that Grand Prix racing back then was the main thing. Obviously it wasn't Formula 1 until 1950, and as I completely lose it coming out of Tetra Rouge for the second time, I will point out quickly I am not used to driving these LMP cars, so my driving is atrocious, so I do apologise. And the organisers wanted to do something different, and they came up with this test of endurance, the 24-hour race round Le Mans, and it gained good respect very quickly. Manufacturers seen it as another example for them to showcase their talents. Cars becoming more and more prominent in the world. They could use Grand Prix racing for how quick a car was. So those races would generally only be 3 to 4 hours or so, maybe a bit more. Whereas this one was for a full 24. So it gave them another way of looking at things, and it was really picked up speed very quickly. Not long after that. So that'll be reliability and fuel efficiency were the main instances. Now, as I say, over the year it has changed the track. The Spirit of Le Mans track, if you have got it on Project Cars 2, has the replica of the layout of the Circuit de la Sarthe from 1971, I think it was. And this goes back to when the Mulsanne Straight, which we're on right now, had no chicanes. So it was like 6 kilometres long, it just flat out foot to the floor. And by the time they got to the late 80s, so the Group C monsters that are about, you had Henry Perscoloso, I think is how you pronounce his name, I keep doing it wrong every time. He was in a Peugeot, however you wish to pronounce that as well, 242 miles an hour in race trim, and it started getting a bit too much. So they unfortunately had to put the 2 chicanes, as the FIA brought on a ruling that no racetrack can have a straight longer than, I think it was 1.6 kilometres. I think it is, I can't quite remember that rule, but anyway. But the current length for the track is 8.467 miles. So absolutely huge still in terms of track length. The LMP ones, or the LMP hybrids as they are, obviously these days, with the Toyotas etc., they lap around about 3 minute 15 is the pole time this year for Kazuki Nakajima. Kamui Kobayashi in the Toyota holds the lap record, as I get it completely wrong going through the Porsche curves. I did say my driving was poor in these things. His was a 3 minute 14 a couple of years back, which is just a stunning lap time. But it's still a massive track. You've even got like the LMP2s, the GTE cars as well, which we flew by at the start, like your Aston Martin Vantages, your Corvettes, Ferrari 488 Ford GT, all sorts of things in there. It's phenomenal. And you've got your GTE AM class as well, so you've got a Pro and an AM class for GTE. GTE Pro is obviously the pro drivers, as I mess up the Ford chicane this time. I did say I was rubbish at driving these cars. And then you've got the AM class, which should help bring some amateur drivers in who normally wouldn't get the chance to be in a pro team. So it is very, very cool in that regard. Now, all the way up until the 70s, the cars that were used were predominantly race-going versions of production cars, which is why if you think back to the 60s, you had Ford GT, you had Ferrari, I think it was a 330 if I remember correctly, all sorts of stuff like that. You know, one of the other winners back in the day was the Bentley. You had their old style cars. Just a incredible list of manufacturers that have won either outright or, you know, even class victories. So, you know, it really has captured the imagination. This year there is, I think, 60 runners almost. I'm not entirely sure exactly, but usually there's about 56 pit lanes at least. So there's a huge number of entries this year. Some of them are from the WEC, some of them are from European Le Mans, Asia Le Mans, the IMSA WeatherTech series in America, all sorts of stuff. And some are of course 24-hour entries only. So there's a huge mix in there of what you can see. Just massive. I think the only 24-hour entry I can see going through the list is this year in the GTE Pro class. number 52 AF Corsa, the Ferrari 488, Tony Vilander, Pippo Derani and Antonio Giovinazzi in that car. That's the only 24-hour only entry this year, but you do sometimes over the year get much more than that, entering as a one-off. But you can see now on the screen we're heading into the twilight, we're heading into the night time, it's getting darker, the sun sets, and this is the challenge of endurance racing. How you deal with the transitions, as well as obviously over 24 hours, how do you deal with the traffic? Because you're going to get a lot of traffic in one of these LMP cars from the likes of the GTEs further back. And that is the challenge of Le Mans. How do you deal with all the different elements? How do you make the car last 24 hours? You see them pulling them into the garage sometimes to make repairs. You see them even at pit stops sometimes. They'll be replacing brake calipers. Sometimes even discs need to be changed as well, as I make a mess at Indianapolis this time. I'm making a mess of every part of the track basically. And I didn't mean to pause, but there you go. And there we go into RNRs, another mess up. I told you I'm not good in these cars. I'm used to driving the GTE class. That's what it is. That's all it is. But this is the challenge is the transitions, and obviously at night it's colder, so it's harder to keep the temperature in the tyres, it's easier to lose control, it's harder to pick your braking points, it's harder to tell which cars are coming up behind you as well. You know, if you're in a slower class and you see a car coming up behind with headlights, you don't know at that point, just by looking at it, is that another GTE car? Is that someone I'm racing? Is it one of the Toyotas at the front of the field? You just don't have a clue who it is. But that is one of the challenges of the race around Le Mans, and any 24-hour race in general. Now, of course, it is part of the Triple Crown, the Le Mans 24 Hours, along with the Monaco Grand Prix and the Indy 500. And of course, this year in the Toyota number 8, which is on pole position, we also have Fernando Alonso driving that car. He's actually doing a full WEC season with Toyota through this super season. Excuse me, as he tries to look at the Triple Crown. He went to Indy last year. He was doing well until the Honda blew up. Irony. And now he's with Toyota, Honda's arch rivals. But you know what? It's amazing how much an engine deal can change things. There you go. It also shows you how much might he's got too. But he's going to be the main focal point this year, and although Toyota have had a lot of bad luck, many people obviously expect them to win this year. Porsche and Audi, who are the other main LMP1 competitors of recent, are no longer racing in the LMP class, which is why they've announced for some rule changes to try and encourage manufacturers back for 2020. So it'll be interesting to see how that works going forward. They're looking at a sort of hypercar, I think GT Sports 2020, sort of evolution cars, those sort of things is what they're thinking of as well. But there's so much to this race that you could go on for ages, and I probably should have wrote down more than I did, but there you go, that's just how it goes. But obviously one of the main bits is in history goes back to the 60s, where Ferrari were dominating, Ford came along with the iconic GT40 and were eventually able to take the fight to Ferrari for overall honours. They went away for a while, Ford, they came back recently into the GTE class with the GT, which was absolutely brilliant. They're run by Chip Ganassi, who's obviously well known in America for NASCAR, IndyCar, and racing, running cars in the IMSA series as well over in the States. So a lot there, but obviously this year the LMP1 class is just Toyota as a manufacturer entry, along with the likes of the Rebellion team and things like that filling up the class. But with Toyota's luck, you wouldn't put it past something happening and one of these teams picking up the spoils. There was a point in last year's race where actually it looked like an LMP2 car for a while could end up taking overall victory. One of the Jackie Chan entries, which is crazy as well. Jackie Chan, big movie star, obviously kung fu specialist, runs a team, so it's just incredible. Patrick Dempsey, movie stars. He runs Porsche. He's back this year as well. So it's a whole lot of things, and that's what makes Le Mans so great. Obviously, Steve McQueen is the most famous one. You had Le Mans, the movie, back in the 70s. McQueen raced in that race as well, if I remember correctly, and obviously it was part of the film, some of the footage. So there's a lot to this track and this event in the total. But the manufacturer with the most victories out of Ford, Ferrari, Audi, Peugeot, Mercedes, everybody, is for overall victory is Porsche. 19 victories, and obviously they've done 3 in a row with the 919 drivers like Brendan Hartley, who's now at Toro Rosso in F1. Mark Webber was in the team as well. Nico Hulkenberg took a win, obviously Force India driver in the first year. So it's a lot there to Porsche's history, and obviously they and Audi have disappeared, looking at Formula E for the near future as I get sideways and save it going through the Dunlop curve. That part there, obviously you go under the Dunlop bridge. That bridge has been there for a long time, and if you do use the classic track, you'll notice there's no curve, it's just a straight on bit of road up to Tetra Rouge there. The track always had a lot of changes made to it back in the mid-50s. We had the Le Mans disaster in 1955, where coming up to the pits, and the pits at that time were part of the main straight, there was no wall separating it. Pierre Levesque's car, which if I remember earlier was a Mercedes, clipped the back of another car in amongst all the traffic, and it got lodged over the barricade, flipped and tumbled into the grandstand, where you have the main grandstand on the straight now. And a horrible accident. There's footage of it as well, but over 80 people died. And that's seen not just widespread changes made at Le Mans, but also at racetracks around the world. It had to be. It was a huge thing. It was so big that Switzerland actually banned motor racing in Switzerland forever. In fact, they've only just lifted that ban recently for when Formula E go there very soon to have a race in Zurich. That'll be the first time motorsport has been allowed in Switzerland since the 50s. That's how much this crash made an impact on the world of motorsport. Absolutely huge. Mercedes disappeared for a number of years as well, and top flight motorsport as well. There's a whole load of drivers who just got disillusioned with seeing people dying in front of them as they're racing by. It was horrible. But thankfully that sort of thing doesn't come about now, although deaths have still happened round the track in rears as recently as a few years back, when Alan Simerson, who was playing the Aston Martin GTE Aston Martin, he had a crash at Tetra Rouge just before the start of Mulsanne, and that was quite early in the race as well, and he unfortunately passed away due to his injuries. It was a fitting tribute the next year that the Aston Martin won, and they had put his name on the side of it as well, if I remember that correctly. So it's, you know, it's a huge event in that regards. Now, one of the other main parts from Le Mans history, and you can actually do it in Project Cars 2, is the Group C's cars, the monstrous Group C cars that were about, just huge power. As I say, originally the cars were production cars turned into race cars, but from the 70s, the team started, manufacturers started making purpose-built cars. We've seen the Renault Alpine. Porsche 926 came along, which holds the lap record famously at the Nürburgring, 6 minutes and 29 seconds, I think it is. All sorts of cars like that. Sauber, Mercedes as well. Just a huge ton of car. That's when obviously they hit that 250 odd mile an hour down the Mulsanne with the Peugeot. And those, that was just a hugely phenomenal time during that time to see, as I get it wrong going down Dunlop again. And how that happens, just incredible. But obviously those cars were too fast. I mean, most of the horrific accidents came during that time. Mulsanne Straight was uninterrupted. It was bumpy. You can see it here even just now on the screen, and there's a huge number of accidents. 1972, Joachim Bonnier catapulted into the forest after hitting a privateer Ferrari at the Indianapolis section, which we're coming up to shortly in a wee bit. 1980 seen the worst decade, some of the worst accidents. Now Armco along the straights, but it's still happening. These cars capable of 240, 250 along that 6km straight, even with the kink. Thierry Boutsen in 1981 had a horrific crash that killed a marshal. Same race, Jean-Louis Lafosse was killed on the Mulsanne Straight when he steered suddenly to the right and slammed the barrier at high speeds. 1984 seen another huge crash, an Aston Martin V8 powered Nimrod tore through the Armco barrier into the trees. The explosion so violent that the woods next to the track caught fire. Thankfully Sheldon survived, albeit with severe burns, but there was a track marshal who was unfortunately severely and terminally injured and died, and 2 others injured as well, including one of Sheldon's own teammates. So just absolutely incredible. One of the ones that most people remember from crashes was 1999, and this is another car that's in the game, and it's the Mercedes-Benz CLRs, and they took off 3 times over Le Mans weekend. It happened on the test day. They claimed to have solved the problem. Then on the warm-up of the race, Mark Webber flipped the car, and he flipped it during the test day as well, which is incredible. Both times okay, and then the accident that everybody's seen is the one with Peter Dumbrett going into the forest, landing upside down. It's a scary looking accident. But thankfully we were all uninjured, but Mercedes withdrew from any, killed its entire sports car program at that time. We also remember Alan McNish 2011 early on in the race having a huge flip, which thankfully the car landed back on the right side of the Armco, because if not that was going to land in amongst some photographers, which looked frightening. It's just so much has gone on in this race. It's a never-ending quest of speed, reliability, but safety as well, of course. And it's never been safer than it is now, even with these cars getting the hybrid power and the huge speeds that they're capable of. But incredible. And I said obviously earlier on, Porsche had the most wins as a marquee. The most times as a driver is Tom Christensen, who's actually just now on my laptop. He's on doing the grid stuff with Eurosport for the race. So he's actually on my screen right now. 9 times a winner overall at Le Mans, Tom Christensen the Dane. 7 times with Audi through the sort of 2000s period, when Audi were dominating with the R8, the R10, the R15, 18s and so on, with the diesel powered cars that they brought along, and then the hybrids. So he's the most winningest driver, to use an American term. But we're now back into daytime on this race. Now I'm in 6th at the moment, so we've managed to get our way through the night. I've managed to not kill myself too badly, which is not as much can be said for when I drove the next gen race in 2 hour of Le Mans last night in my GTE. Don't know what happened. Slipped around worse on a greasy pig trying to run away from the farmer. So it was just incredibly hard. But we are still catching up to those cars ahead. Now 2 minutes 20 odds left. We're going to get one more lap, because by the time we complete this lap the clock won't have hit 0. So there's going to be one more lap. We're catching up to this lead lot, and you can see on the map in the top right there's blue dots, which means there's lapped cars in amongst it all. There'll probably be GTE cars, so we need to be careful that we don't get caught up here. We're coming up the last part of Mulsanne, coming up to Mulsanne corner, which is tricky to get right. You've got to get on the brakes while you're kind of turning that short kink, and then on the power. We go past the Ferrari, which gets a little bit sideways, puts me on the grass. We've got another one ahead. How's it going to work? Oh, goodness me. He almost braked there as I wasn't ready for that. So we came up to Indianapolis. That's a tricky bit going into Indianapolis, the first part before Indianapolis. That's tricky. But that car almost slowed down right in front of me, but we managed to stay on the road. Into R&R's, very tight corner at the back end of the track. And then the Porsche curves. Now, these are, I would love to try and go through the Porsche curves in one of these cars with a good setup in VR, because the speed through here is phenomenal. I mean, I know I'm going a lot slower, but you go over 200 kilometers an hour going through there, and if you watch the race you'll see them going zipping through here. I just don't have the confidence in the setup. That's my problem. That's why I'm taking it easy. I'm just not used to driving these cars. I usually drive GT3s and obviously if you've seen the commentary videos, the V8 supercars, so not used to this kind of car. But we're coming up to the last lap through the Ford chicane. Now you can see a ton of GTE cars ahead. There's an Aston. I need to try and get by him. There we go. So we're by one. This is the last lap now, so the timer's going to hit down. Another GTE passed. Now it's all how the AI get through here. Corvette, oh, so close. Got a BMW ahead, just need to wait and then use the hybrid to boost my way past. Oh, now BM getting in the way there through the Dunlops, but there's the competition. We're actually fourth. Don't know where some of the others have gone, but anyway. Up to Tetra Rouge. A good setup LMP car, you can actually go through there nearly flat out. We're up a place, we're up to third, passing two in one go. That hybrid boost there just powering us past in a blink of an eye. Incredible speeds you can do in these cars. Coming up to the first of the Mulsanne chicanes. This is the last lap. Can we end the Toyota Hoodoo, or am I going to absolutely make a bollock of this on the last lap? Not as quick through the chicane, car catching up to me, but be able to power away. Looks like it's a back marker ahead of us. We're closing in. In fact, no, that's actually second place up ahead of us. Back markers ahead of him though. That's going to be interesting. Looks like there's a move for the lead up front. Into the second Mulsanne chicane. I had a wee lock of the brakes there. He doesn't make it through. Now this is hard because I can see a GTE Aston by the looks of it. And it's four cars. I'm going to try and get the power on. Oh, it's ended in disaster. I went for the gap. It would have made it, but there was a bit of the armco that stuck out and I hit it. I reacted, I hit it. We've lost it. We've lost the lead. We've lost the race. But that is one of the bits that makes Le Mans so cool in any endurance race, to be honest. You've got the different speed approaches. You've got to be on your toes at all times. There is no way that you can take it easy. You know, there's no way you can take it easy through there. You've got to be alert all the time. It is just an incredible feat, and I know that there is the option to do it in 24 hours. One of these days, maybe I will. Maybe I'll try it sometime. Solo? Who knows? I'd love to do it online with driver changes like you can do in, like, say, iRacing and stuff like that, so it would be great. But we're coming up to the end. It's going to be fourth place, possibly, maybe a bit higher. There's one of those GT Fords, look phenomenal. But that's going to be it. So if you have liked this video about Le Mans and a bit of rambling from me as well, do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well, and hit the bell icon too. I'm going to look at one of these days getting this right and giving it a right good go with some really good info structured as well. But for the meantime, thank you for watching. Enjoy Le Mans this weekend. My name's Andy. Till the next video, I'll see you again soon. Ta-ra.